I grew up in government-assisted townhouses in the early 2000s with my mom, brother, and sister. My mom was a single parent working late almost every night. So a lot of the time, the house was just us kids. I was around 8 or 9 when this happened. My older brother was the kind of person who was always involved with the wrong crowd. He spent most of his time hanging around what everyone in our area called the third complex, which was known for being way worse than the one we lived in. There were always fights, drugs, people getting arrested, stuff like that. Even as a kid, I knew enough not to ask questions about what my brother got up to. This was before cell phones, before Ring cameras, before any of that. If something happened at your house, nobody really knew until it was already happening. It was just before sundown. My sister and her friend were upstairs asleep, probably hungover from partying the night before. I was downstairs by myself watching TV when I heard movement at the front door. Our front door had one of those small square windows near the top that slid open, but we had covered it with frosted tape so nobody could see inside. I used to peel back the corner of it sometimes to look outside. When I heard the noise, I walked over and peeled the corner back. Standing outside was one of my brother's friends. Behind him were 2 people wearing masks. One had a baseball bat and the other had a knife. Right as I looked through the window, something slammed against the door so hard the whole frame shook. At that age, I already knew more than a kid should. I knew exactly what was happening. They were trying to kick the door in. I panicked instantly and ran straight for the back door. Looking back now as an adult, I still feel guilty for running while my sister and her friend were upstairs sleeping. But I was a terrified kid, operating completely on instinct. I flew out the back door into the forest behind our complex. There was a dirt trail that looped around the buildings and connected to another street nearby. I remember sprinting through the trees without even thinking, convinced they were behind me. I ended up at a neighbor's house that I knew and started pounding on the door, screaming that people were breaking into our house. After that, my memory gets blurry. I remember police showing up eventually and going back toward the townhouse. If you grew up in areas like that, you know people weren't exactly friendly with police, so even talking to them felt tense. My sister and her friend were okay, just shaken up. I remember giving my statement and intentionally leaving out that one of the people outside was my brother's friend. My brother had that whole snitches get stitches mentality, and at that age, I was stupid enough to buy into it too. The detectives came back the next day asking more questions. Nothing had actually been stolen, which confused me at the time. It wasn't until later my sister told me what really happened after I ran. Apparently, the people who broke in had switched their knife for a larger one they found in our kitchen. They woke my sister and her friend up and dragged them downstairs, demanding to know where my brother was. They tore through parts of the house looking for him before eventually leaving. Thankfully, nobody was seriously hurt. Later on, we found out that my brother's friend, the same one I saw outside the window, had apparently been kidnapped beforehand and forced to lead them to our house over some criminal stuff they were involved in. That part stayed with me the most. Not the masks, not the weapons. The fact that the people around my brother would turn on each other that fast. I still remember the feeling afterward for weeks. Every little sound outside at night made my stomach drop. I kept thinking they were going to come back. My brother stayed involved in that life for years after. In and out of jail, always more problems, always more people looking for him. I'm just glad I ended up taking a different path. If there's any lesson in this story, it's that there are no real friends in crime. This happened to me during my first year of college when I was renting the upper floor of an old house with 2 friends. The house itself was weird from the start. It was one of those old places that had been divided into separate units over the years. We lived upstairs. Another tenant lived in the basement, and the middle floor was supposedly vacant while the landlord renovated it. At least that's what we were told. A few weeks after moving in, little things started happening that none of us could explain. Cabinets would be open in the kitchen when nobody remembered opening them. Lights would randomly be on downstairs. One time I came home from class and my bedroom door was open, even though I always kept it shut because of my cat. We kept blaming each other for everything. Then food started disappearing. Nothing dramatic at first. A couple granola bars, leftovers, half a loaf of bread. We were all broke college kids, so naturally we accused each other constantly. It became kind of a joke in the house. One night around 2 a.m., I woke up because I heard movement downstairs in the kitchen. I assumed one of my roommates was up late eating, but then I realized I couldn't hear anyone talking or watching TV. Just drawers opening and closing slowly. I got up and walked halfway down the stairs. The kitchen light was off, but moonlight from the back window lit enough of the room for me to see someone standing near the fridge. At first, I thought it was my roommate until the person turned slightly, and I realized I didn't recognize them at all. It was a man wearing a dark hoodie. I froze instantly. The guy just stared at me for a couple seconds without moving. Then he calmly grabbed something off the counter and walked through the kitchen toward the back of the house like he belonged there. I ran back upstairs and locked myself in my room before calling my roommates. We all stayed upstairs while police searched the house. That's when they discovered someone had been living inside the unfinished middle floor for who knows how long. Apparently, there was a small access panel in a storage closet near the kitchen that connected to the space between floors. The guy had blankets, food wrappers, bottles of water, and even a small battery-powered lantern hidden in there. The creepiest part was realizing he had probably been coming into our apartment while we slept almost every night. Police never found him. For weeks afterward, every sound in that house made me paranoid. I started putting objects in front of my bedroom door before going to sleep, just so I'd hear something if it opened. I moved out less than 2 months later. When I was 17, my parents left for a weekend trip and trusted me to stay home alone. At the time, I thought it was awesome. The first night was completely normal. The second night is something I still think about years later. It was sometime after midnight. I had made myself some hot pockets and headed downstairs to the basement to play Xbox. Back then, I was obsessed with Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2. Most of my friends were online every night, and we spent hours playing multiplayer and talking in party chat. I had probably been down there for an hour or so when I heard something strange. At first, it sounded like footsteps somewhere upstairs. I paused for a second and listened. Nothing. I figured it was the house settling and went back to playing. A few minutes later, I heard it again. This time it wasn't footsteps. It sounded like running water. I pulled one side of my headset off and listened more carefully. Sure enough, I could hear it. Water. Running water. It sounded exactly like somebody was taking a shower upstairs. At first, I just sat there trying to make sense of it. Then I remembered something. I was supposed to be home alone. My parents were away for the weekend. Nobody else should have been in the house. I finally said something into party chat. Yo, I think someone's in my house. Immediately, everybody started laughing. If you played COD back then, you know exactly how those conversations went. One friend said I was hearing things. Another said it was probably a ghost. Someone else joked that a homeless guy had broken in just to use my shower. The jokes kept coming. Normally, I would have laughed too. This time I didn't. The water was still running. The longer I listened, the worse the feeling got. Finally, I said, "Nah, seriously, hold on." I backed out of the party chat and returned to the Modern Warfare 2 menu. The house suddenly felt a lot quieter. I stood up from the couch and dropped my controller and headset without thinking. As I started walking toward the stairs, the headset disconnected. The only sound left behind me was the MW2 menu music coming through the TV speakers. If you've ever played that game, you probably know exactly what music I'm talking about. That low ambient soundtrack echoed through the basement while I stared up the staircase. Meanwhile, somewhere above me, the shower was still running. I slowly started climbing the stairs. The closer I got, the louder the water sounded. My heart was absolutely pounding at this point. Halfway up the staircase, the shower suddenly stopped. Just stopped. The entire house went silent. I froze, because now it wasn't just somebody taking a shower. Whoever was up there had probably heard me. I stood there listening. Nothing. No water, no footsteps, nothing at all. Then I heard it. The sound of a shower curtain being pulled open. It came from the bathroom at the end of the hallway. I didn't wait to see anything. The second I heard that sound, every survival instinct I had kicked in. I turned around and practically fell down the stairs trying to get away. I grabbed my phone from the couch and called 911 while running for the front door. The dispatcher told me to leave the house immediately. I didn't need to be told twice. I ran straight outside and crossed the street. From there, I could see the bathroom light glowing through the second-floor window. I stayed on the phone with dispatch and watched the house. Every second felt like a minute. I kept expecting to see someone come out. Eventually, police arrived. 2 officers entered the house while another stayed outside with me. A few minutes later, they brought a man out in handcuffs. Apparently, he had entered through an unlocked basement window earlier that evening. Police later told me he had been moving around the house for hours while I was downstairs gaming. To this day, I have no idea what his intentions were. What I do know is that while I was sitting downstairs eating Hot Pockets and playing Modern Warfare 2 with my friends, a complete stranger was upstairs taking a shower in a house he didn't belong in. And if that shower hadn't been running, I might never have known he was there.